This weekend right now, according to projections today, 45 million, a 6% drop. People out there that wanted to come onto the video clips from this and complain about what I said last weekend, y'all knock yourself out. This is a unicorn. Even with great word of mouth and everything, you understand, and this is great for this film, and it's great for theaters, and it's great for Warner Brothers, right? It's a unicorn, man. That's a real testament to how well this film does. There's no indication that this would happen to any movie like this. Not at this level of start. Renegade Online. Based on a lot of comments that I've seen this week on my YouTube videos, the clips from the live shows last week on Sunday and the live show from Wednesday, people clearly aren't watching, listening, learning, because they don't get all this money back, right? If Sinners made $45 million this weekend, that's not all going back to the studio. About half of that is going back to the studio. Let's talk about Sinners. This thing is a freaking unicorn, man. And I'll tell people, last week I looked at this and I'll repeat exactly what I said then. This is a movie that has a $90 million budget. This is an extremely expensive horror movie. That's about 4 times, I would say, the average horror movie budget, okay? You think about most of these horror flicks that come out, whether it's Smile or Megan or the Insidious films. I'm trying to name some of the more recent ones. I mean, you're talking about movies that have 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 to 25 million on the high side. Five Nights at Freddy's was like a $23 million budget film. Yeah, The Conjuring, another Insidious kind of adjacent thing. These things are super, super cheap. That's why these studios love to make them, because they're an easy hurdle to get over, because the horror movie audience goes out and sees every horror movie pretty much. Sinners is one of these ones that are like way out there in terms of finance. $90 million for this. Now, I said last week, everybody was raving about this. I was like, I'm going to put it on my list. I'm going to try to see it. But one of the other things that
the first time I saw it when it was called From Dusk Till Dawn.
Is that what it is? See, I don't even know the premise.
Basically, yeah. So, no, I'm not trying to dump on it or anything. It's pretty good from what I've heard. I know part of the reason it was so expensive, I just want to say, is because Coogler shot it on 70 millimeter.
Ah.
And it's being shown in what few 70 millimeter theaters there are. It's got all the big PLF screens right now in various formats. So
not exclusively, but a good bit of them. Yeah, because that's
but it does exclusively, I think, have all the real quote unquote real IMAXs and not the FOMAXs. Yes,
exactly, and that's a big part of it. And yeah, that does bring up the cost, but still, $90 million for a horror budget or a horror film is an extreme budget. It really, really is. And I said last week, look, a $45 million opening is awesome for any horror movie. That's a great opening weekend. And even if word of mouth is good, it's still going to be hard for this movie to make its money back in the box office. I also said that doesn't mean it's a flop. I never said it was a failure or a flop. I said it might fail to make its money back in the box office, and it still may. Still may. I think it's much more likely that it will at this point, considering what we're about to discuss on this one. But I said this movie ultimately would be fine, because horror movies like this tend to have a very healthy lifespan. And this too, guess what? It's a Warner Brothers movie. So David Zaslav and company are having a great time right now between this and Minecraft. They're really firing on
There's
all
already
cylinders.
Oscar buzz for this movie, which that's the part where I'm kind of giving it crap, because it's like Tarantino keeps getting snubbed, and he made this movie 35 years ago. Right? Yeah. Or 30 years ago. Anyway, but no, it's supposed to be a very beautifully shot, well done horror film. It's doing really well. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think monetarily, here's the thing. I think there's some special deal with this movie, because a lot of people were making a big, huge fuss about how Coogler gets the actual rights to this movie back in like 20, 25 years or something like that. So Warner Brothers does not have the rights to this movie forever. And there was a bunch of people freaking out going like, this is going to be the end of the studio system and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know how the budget is actually played out here in this situation. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Coogler put up money himself That could very possibly be. So like, I don't know if he did like a certain percentage of the box office or the budget just so he could retain ownership. So yeah, that's a little unprecedented because this hasn't happened since like back in the day when George Lucas retained the rights to the sequels to Star Wars because Fox had no idea what they had, right? Like I can see that, but this is nowhere near like a Star Wars thing at the same time. But I mean, if
No,
Sinners becomes like this really, long running horror franchise, I could see at Warner Brothers being pissed about that.
well, I mean, it just depends on how much of that is true, how it really plays out. But just assuming for a second that there's shared ownership, you've got distribution costs coming off the top in that kind of relationship. 161 million in worldwide box office. So one of my concerns still stands, and that is that the international box office is so much smaller than the domestic, right? And I don't think that's going to radically change percentage wise in the near future, unless they open up some additional markets, maybe. But as of right now, I mean, I thought, okay, if Warner Brothers and if they did a $40 million marketing budget for this or a $50 million marketing budget for this, I think realistically, if this movie
Mhm.
got to around $280 million globally, then it's covered its cost at the box office. I said, doesn't need to, again, because of what's going to happen post theatrical and how well horror movies like this tend to do with PVOD and things like that. But for the sake of the box office, looking at this, okay, is there another $120 million or so still out there for it to comfortably cross and over into a profit territory? That's the question. Now, that being said, this is what happened this weekend. Let's take a look because this thing was a shocker. All right. Let's scroll down. Last weekend, this movie turned in a $48 million open. Amazing for a horror film. This weekend, right now, according to projections today, and this could go a little higher or a little bit lower by tomorrow when we get final numbers, 45 million, a 6% drop, a 94% hold from the first to the second weekend. Now, again, people out there that wanted to come onto the video clips from this and complain about what I said last weekend, y'all knock yourself out. And again, you clearly didn't watch anything I said in the
Well,
video. So on this one, here's the deal. This is a unicorn. That isn't normal. Even with great word of mouth and everything, you understand, and this is great for this film, and it's great for theaters, and it's great for Warner Brothers, right? It's a unicorn, man. That's a real testament to how well this film does. There's no indication that this would happen to any movie like this. Not at this level of start. You get a movie that starts at maybe a couple of 2 or 3 or 4, even $10 million. That's not terribly uncommon. It doesn't have a big marketing budget. It doesn't maybe have a lot of screens in its first week. It gets popular. It adds more screens. You can see here, last week it opened with 3,300 screens. This week, it still has about the same number of screens at 3,300. They added 30 more, 40 more. So it's about the same, but this thing really managed to leg out very well because of exceptionally good word of mouth. This isn't just normal good word of mouth. We were marveling at Top Gun Maverick 2 summers ago when that movie came out because from its opening weekend that it did, I think around $100 million or something like that, it still had it only dropped off 29% in its second weekend. And that was during the summer, with the Memorial Day holiday and all that kind of stuff, which we said at that 29% hold for a film that opens that large from week 1 to week 2 is phenomenal. 45 or $48 million, it's not 100, but that's still a lot of money. $48 million, that's a big open, especially for a horror film. And this thing only lost 6% of the ticket sales weekend over weekend. That's so impressive. And I'm thrilled for it. And I think it is in a lot better shape now this weekend than it was last weekend for turning a profit at the box office, which is awesome. Instead of having to wait until PVOD came around and making some stuff up on the back end. So good on Ryan Coogler. Good on Michael B. Jordan. Good on Warner Brothers in this movie. Tom?
yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what I've been saying for a while, even though I'm kind of pissy with Warner Brothers right now for other reasons. But the doom and gloom that a lot of people keep putting around this studio is not nearly that bad. See, I've even seen some people try to backtrack on their Superman comments going, oh, well, since this movie was a surprise hit now, it really helps, take some take some weight off of Superman's shoulders. I'm like, there never really was all that much weight on Superman's shoulders other than the DC films as we know it. Right? Like everybody like presenting this idea that Warner Brothers is in some doom and gloom's place where they're going to fail if they have one failure like Superman is redonkulous.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm so tired of this. And Warner Brothers, I mean, good for them. They have had more hits in the past 2 years since Zaslav has taken over. And regardless of how you feel about Abdi and DeLuca, sure, they had some bombs with Joker 2, which, look, I don't even think that should be counted against them. That, to me, falls all on Todd Phillips's lap and them aligned. And what producer wouldn't make that deal with him at that point? Right? Like, you can't really blame them for what happened there. And other than that, you had what, Mickey 17? Well, that movie should have and could have worked. I think we could talk about why it didn't work in a few different ways and times beyond this, but probably biggest and most of all is that I don't think Pattinson is as big as a movie star as everybody thinks he is too, kind of like with The Rock and all these other people they keep shoving in these movies because of their social media following. But that being said, I mean, look, this has been a great week or two for the theaters. They're eating this up. They love movies like Sinners. They like movies like Minecraft. Sure, there's some of them that have been p***s about, you know, allowing teenagers in and doing the things that they're doing. And I agree. Like, if you're a teenager and you're throwing crap at the screen, then knock it off. Right? Like throwing a little bit of popcorn during the chicken jockey scene, I don't see that as a big deal. Right? Like, to me, that's no problem. But throwing stuff at the screen or doing anything that's destruction of property is bad. I mean, people pay a lot of money for that popcorn. They want to throw it up in the air when somebody says chicken jockey. Fuck them. They can go buy some more popcorn, right? Like, you pay the kid to clean up afterwards. That's what they're there for. No, I mean, I'm sure theaters are very happy with this. King of Kings is playing well for them. I don't remember if I said this last week, but this last week here between Minecraft and King of Kings, the little podunk theater that I have down here in town that I live in, is for the first time ever had both screens sold out. Yeah, they don't even have Sinners. So, like, I mean, that's several films that are playing very well wherever they're playing at. So, yeah.
Yeah, the theater I went last night, I showed up at 9 o'clock, 9:15 last night, and the theater was full. Every parking spot was packed. But people were there for a variety of different things. I mean, each
auditorium the diversity of films.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they really needed, and it got people showing up. But just to kind of put a pin in this one, look, we'll see where this goes. I think at this point, it's at 161 million. It's 10 days in release. At the rate it's holding and rolling, I think another 120 million for this is now very doable, even without.
I think it's going to eke out a profit.
I think it will too. It's got a lot of competition coming up. And again, when I say eke out a profit, to remind folks out there, we're talking about at the box office, right? At the box office. This isn't a Disney production where the box office is basically the only source they have because nobody's really buying the PVOD stuff for Disney because it goes to Disney Plus a few days later. The audience for them are mostly kids, and they've already got Disney Plus. So they're just going to wait for it.
Well, and if HBO's smart, they'll save this for Max for a while. They won't put this directly onto Max.
Well, I mean, if Coogler has a strong ownership position in it, then ultimately it's going to be up to whatever he signed on for. And if he told Max, no, I want 90 days.
And that's what I wonder. He might have even said more than that. We don't know. I never heard his deal. I just know that he's been out there really pushing this movie, talking about, you know, it being on film and the different formats that it's in and the ways you can see it. Because you can see it in like 3 or 4 different ways. Right? Like,
yeah.
And it's different each way you see it as far as the aspect ratio and how it's been presented and by how it's been shot.
Yeah. And it depends on how long, like, because it's got the big IMAX screens now. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else that's going to take that away until Mission Impossible comes out. So they may be able
I don't know. And they got a deal, next 2 weeks from now, I think it is, Tom. They got the Tom Cruise special fan event thing.
Yeah.
In IMAX.
So they've got some time, and we'll see. I mean, next week, again, you've got some big new competition coming next weekend with a huge marketing budget. And then, of course, we get into the latter part of May. But I think, you know, considering the wild hold on this thing, again, it is I cannot stress this enough. That is, for a movie that opened this scale at you know, 40 some odd, $48 million, for a movie to open at $48 million, number one. Number two, it'd be a horror film. And number three, lose 6% of its audience into weekend two. It's basically unprecedented, at least in the last, I don't know, decades that I can imagine. So for the people out there that were, you know, telling me I was hating on it. I was like, no, I'm just using basic mathematical empirical data that we've been doing for years and saying that this is where we think it's going to wind up going. If you had a gut feeling that this movie was going to have a perfect, nearly 100% hold into weekend 2, then it was a gut feeling. Congratulations on that, I guess. But
well, no, and it's like
nothing
sometimes
mathematically backed that up until it happened. It's just one of those things. I mean, this, like I said, and look, I'm applauding this movie for it because the theaters need this and audiences are loving this. And this is the kind of thing that you want to have to drive audiences back to theaters, and good on it for doing what it's doing.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.